All right, let's see if the chat works now. Just wait for some people to jump on here, see if the chat's working. There we go. Yep. Y'all can see mine, but I couldn't see you guys. So it's working now. Once again, every time we got to restart it now. I feel like it's getting worse as opposed to it getting better. And we're back. Ryan Gallagher, yes sir. SNL fan, at least old school SNL fan, for sure. All right, so I guess we'll start off with Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. Of course, Kevin Harvick said he's going to set a timeline on it. I mean, just my guess, and it's just a pure out guess. I think he's probably going to retire. And Denny Hamlin made some waves by saying, also, I saw a FedEx Denny Hamlin commercial, which makes me lean toward the other direction now, because maybe the new guys at FedEx are actually going to get behind him. Because if they're actually making a commercial with Denny Hamlin, then maybe they will come back and will sponsor him. So he might be in a better position than Kyle Busch was last season. So I'll have to talk about that. But he made even bigger headlines when he said that there should be a bigger sample size for your champion. If you do the chase or whatever, you should have more than one race. One race shouldn't decide a champion. And yes, he said, I know it sounds like sour grapes because I haven't won one, but he's saying to decide a champion for the year, you should get more than one race. So I actually do agree with him on that. And some of you guys have brought up slap system. Slap system is basically a modified version of the Latford system, where he also he added some bonus points for things other. What was it, like leading the lap, leading the most laps, fastest lap, qualifying on the pole, and whoever had the fastest pit stop. I think that was it. So he had a pretty good system for that as well. But you could also institute, if you're going to do some type of playoff, probably the chase was the best way to do it. The chase format was probably the best way to do it. But no matter what you do, somebody is going to figure out a way to be the best in that system, because at the end of the day, you always have to have a best driver. And if you look historically through motorsports, once one team figures out how to be the best team and gets the best driver, they do win several championships, no matter what the format is. You saw Jimmy Johnson get 7 under the chase format. You've seen Joey Logano now has 2 under this current playoff format. And then, of course, Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Richard Petty had 7 under the Latford system. So every once in a while, you're just going to have a driver and a team that excels. So it doesn't really matter what you do. You're going to have a multiple-time champion. So all the arguments essentially for the playoffs are gone. It's supposed to help ratings. It didn't help ratings. It was supposed to put an emphasis on wins. Didn't put an emphasis on wins. So it's been pretty much has not accomplished anything you want it to accomplish. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to take another look at it. So I'm on board with Hamlin as far as that goes. Crazy 8 says, nice hat. Yeah, this is the old Eric Jones when he ran at Bristol. The last 2 races where he's had Tide on there, which is pretty cool sponsorship. Always wears a white suit, which is pretty on brand. So that's pretty cool. First, last, yeah, I got the Yugo shirt on today. So yeah, people are liking the outfit. I appreciate that. John Ray said, how are things going? Pretty good. Could stand for it to be warmer, but it is wintertime, so you just got to deal with it. Trucker Dan says, what's up? What's up, Trucker Dan? Hope you're doing good today. Rusty Beechwood, good morning, sir. Ladies and gents, Rusty, good to have you on here. Hope you're doing good as well. Bumblebee says, I'm completely in favor of Denny's new idea for points. Yeah, I think he brings up a solid. It's not anything. It's not really a new point. We've been talking about that for a long time, at least in the community of this channel. We would rather have season-long points, because it just you're racing against everybody every single race. It's not like a stick and ball sport where you might not even play all the teams in the league. I mean, I know some teams, some sports, they do play all the teams in the league, but if you look at pro football or whatever, they don't play every team in the league. So a playoff format sort of makes sense in pro football. Doesn't really make sense in NASCAR. So I don't know. So yeah, Aldous says, hey, BB, it's time we push NASCAR back to 900 horsepower. I agree with you on that, Aldous. I think the more horsepower, the more tire fall off you're going to get. And I also think it's going to be harder to drive the car. So the people that can, it's going to emphasize who can drive a higher horsepower car. Not that driving a lower horsepower car is any lesser of a skill. It's just it just doesn't seem to separate the drivers more. But the more horsepower seems to separate drivers, and you get the tire fall off. So I think that's going to help two things. So I would like to see 900 horsepower, especially when they go to the next version of the engine, the hybrid engine or whatever. So yeah, I would like to see that as well. Alda says, let's go back to full season points format. I'm doing my modified version of F1 and Latford points format, which is very similar to what Slap Shoes did as well. I know you wouldn't do the bonus points, Alice. We've talked about that behind the scenes. So yeah, that's definitely the best system. But since NASCAR is so dead set on having a playoff, if you're going to have a playoff, you definitely need more than one race to decide the champion. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Rusty Beachwood's digging the shirt. Appreciate it, Rusty. Crazy Eights. I wonder if NASCAR will have a playoff system, says Crazy Eight. So he's talking about the split there. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing. Hopefully they don't split. Hopefully they get their stuff together and don't split. But if they did split, it would be interesting to see if the offshoot did regular season points, and if NASCAR continued with the playoff system. I think that would actually be the death of the playoff system, because once NASCAR saw that the competing entity was using season-long points and getting better ratings, they would change their do. Competition's good sometimes. In that particular case, I don't think competition's going to be good. I think it would basically almost cripple or kill the sport. So hopefully there's no split, but we'll see. The round of 4 should be at least the entire round of the playoffs, in my opinion. Yeah, so yeah, they need at least 4 or 5 races at the least. Probably the best thing to do is cut it off at 12 or 10. We don't need half the field making it. I personally would like them to cut it off at 10. You get your 10 best drivers in there, the 10 drivers that have had, if you're going to do a chase or a playoff, whatever you want to call it. You get your 10 best drivers in there. You've got 10 races, and whoever has the most points at the end of those 10 races is your champion. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Or you could just go to a Final Four, like the college football playoffs. They do a Final Four, so you could just have 4 drivers for 10 races. That would also work. So I think you might be onto something there too, Bumblebee. It should be exclusive to get if you're going to have a playoff, it should be exclusive to actually get into it, and it would drive up the interest in it, because like half the field, I would say, probably 16, there's like 30, almost half the field is making the of the drivers that run the full series, almost half the field is making the playoffs. So it's sort of like whatever. And that being said, we gripe every year that somebody didn't make it, but that's because of the way the playoff format is set up, where you win and you're in. So it's not necessarily always the most deserving people that make it. That's what makes it just such a hodgepodge. It's probably the worst system of awarding a champion of all time. Because not only do people that deserve to get into the playoffs not get into the playoffs when you've got 16 drivers getting into the playoffs. For example, this season it was Martin Truex. You can look back at other seasons, it was other drivers. But you also, I mean, you just have people in there. They've won one race that season. They could possibly never win another race again in their life, and they're in the playoffs, and they're not going to get past the first round of the playoffs. So it's really just like the first round of the playoffs is got to be probably the lowest rated, because it's just a waste of time. There's 4 drivers in there that have no chance, no shot in the world of going forward. So yeah. Fewer drivers if you're going to have a chase, fewer drivers if you're going to have a playoffs, and then one race doesn't decide it. Those 10 races of the playoffs decide it. It is what it is. That's where I'm going to leave that one off. I'm in the middle of making Sunday dinner. We're baking chicken with mashed potatoes, mashed red potatoes, and gravy, and butter beans, and homemade biscuits. That sounds good, Bumblebee. I haven't not eaten lunch yet, so that sounds really good. Y'all are all invited. Be a short drive for me, I'm sure. Mark Barnum, EB, send your private jet to pick me up for dinner. There you go, Mark. We're going to get the helicopter gassed up. I'll swing by. Just let me know. Drop a pin. We'll pick you up and scoop you, buddy. Let's see. Robin Mark says, take off. Howdy from Canada. What's up, Canada? I saw the shirt on your chat. Wouldn't work. Cool. Almost went to Yugoslavia back in during their civil war. I believe in peace. Love the car, or Fiat, or a Trabant. I appreciate it, Robin, for sure. And hopefully we get to 10,000 and we can get that project going pretty soon. I might start it before then. I don't know. I just kind of want to do it. Cal Tiki says FBS fried bologna sandwich, bologna burger, BB. What's up, Cal Tiki? Hope you're doing good, man. Alda says, this is my NASCAR full season's point format for all to see. First gets 100 points, second gets 80 points. I like the points drop. That's also something that Slap Shoes had, was a significant points drop from first to second. Where this differs is Slap Shoes had a tighter second to third, but Aldous is going 80, then 65. Fourth would get 55, fifth would get 45, sixth would get 40, seventh would get 35, eighth would get 30, ninth would get 25, 10th would get 20, 11th would get 18, 12th would get 16, and 13th would get 14 points. So he would not award points throughout the bottom of the field like me and Slapwood in the Ladford system. So he's cutting it off at looks like 13th there. Robin Mark says, live free or die, thumbs up, or feel bad. Or you might be cutting it off at 20. If I'm doing my math correctly in my head. So I think he would cut his off at 20. Robin Mark says, live free or die, thumbs up, to feel bad all day. There you go. Hope you feel better, Robin. Fun fact, if Jeremy Clements can compete 95% of the laps, this is Molten Rage, in 2023, very doable. He will catapult from 7th to 4th for all-time laps completed in the Xfinity Series. So that's a pretty cool stat right there. Bumblebee says, I think the split talk is just that, a way for NASCAR to jump on, giving more TV money. It's a good ploy to knock NASCAR and coming off some more money. I agree with you, but you have to have the threat there. You have to have the threat, and you have to take it seriously. So they're actually doing their due diligence to take it seriously. And I think that they will run some organized off-season races just to show NASCAR that they can do it at the end of the 2023 season, just to put NASCAR's tail under the fire just a little bit more, because you can't just threaten it. But if you threaten it and then show that you can do it, that will actually put the pressure on NASCAR. So I'm thinking that they will do that. Kenny Wallace has completed the most with 101,933 laps. Jeremy Clements would need about 6 more seasons to surpass Kenny Wallace. So there you go. Who knew Kenny Wallace had that many starts? I remember the Stacker 2 car, and he also had the Cox Lumber car. So Kenny Wallace, I never thought about him running that many Xfinity races, but he definitely did. He had a good dirt race last night somewhere. I saw a bunch of people talking about that on Twitter. And Aldis continued with his points breakdown. He did go to 25th with the points. So just keep decreasing them, and 25th would get 1 point. So I thought he was going to stop at 20, but 25th would get 1 point. Me and Slap System would give points all the way to the last finisher. And he also says, Aldis said, no stages and no bonus points for leading laps. So he would also take the bonus points away. You could go either way for bonus points, in my opinion. I don't think that they will be that big of a deal. That being said, you got the 1992 points chase under the Latford system. So bonus points do occasionally matter. So I don't know. I think leading the most laps, leading a lap, that's just what I grew up on. So I got a preference for that, but it is what it is. I think that's negligible stuff at the end of the day. I think the main thing is to get a full season point system back. Or if you go to the playoffs, at least get 10 races for the playoff drivers and have the playoff drivers only be about 10 drivers or so. There's a picture somebody retweeted today of the 10 or 12 drivers, and it was a throwback picture. There were 2 Ford drivers and 1 Dodge driver in there. The rest of them were Chevrolet drivers. So I'm thinking this was like probably 2008 maybe ish, because Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch were still driving Chevrolets. Denny Hamlin with FedEx, of course, and Kyle Busch, the old Kellogg's 5. So that was actually special back then, because you took the picture, there was only 10 drivers. It didn't look like the old school Winston pictures where you had like 25 drivers in there. So that it actually was special to make the playoffs back in the day. Now, if you don't make the playoffs, you just had a terrible season, or a bunch of randos won, which is what happened this year, and why Martin Truex didn't make it. Molten Ray says in 2023, Jeremy Clements will have a chance at jumping ahead of Elliott Sadler, David Green, Joe Nemechek. The uncertainty comes from not knowing the race links for Sonoma and the Chicago street race. So there you go. We need race links, NASCAR. Get them on there. All right. Crazy 8 says, I didn't like the full season point format because if the champ was crowned before the end of the season, then you have races that mean nothing. So Crazy 8, that's a good point. But the counterpoint to that is the races, and Jimmy Johnson basically proved this under the chase. The races before the chase don't matter once you basically lock yourself into the chase, and they really don't matter if your driver wins a race. If your driver wins a race in the regular season, there's no point in watching the regular season, so you can just tune out until the actual playoffs start. So it is what it is. Either way you look at it, no system is going to be absolutely perfect, so you can have quibbles about it one way or the other. But basically what NASCAR has done with this current playoff system is the playoffs matter, and actually just that one race matters. And now the whole rest of the regular season really doesn't matter after you lock in with a win, or if you can lock yourself in on points, depending on how it plays out that year. Ryan Gallagher, but it awarded the best driver. Yeah, that's the other point. It's not like other sports. You're playing. You're not playing everybody unless it's like golf or track and field. You're not racing against everybody every single race. This one, this particular sport, you're racing against everybody every race. So they have the entire season to prove who's the best. English Premier League soccer is actually a team sport that does this. They play every single team, and they have a point system: 3 points for winning, 2 points for a tie, and 1 point for a loss, I think, or something like that. I can't really remember. But whoever has the most points at the end of the year on their points table gets the win. So they probably have the best point system. The most deserving champion every year comes from them. So you have to put a whole season together to be the champion. So that's the counter argument to that. So yeah, it does create excitement. They're trying to create Game 7 moments. They're trying to create the last race from 1992, but it's manufactured. So a lot of people don't like the manufacturing of it. But what it really does is it voids the regular season. The regular season doesn't mean anything. Where full season points, yeah, somebody might lock in and win the last few races. Might lock in and win, and the last few races might not mean anything. But your favorite driver has had all season to catch them. So really, that they've just had a dominant year, and they deserve to be champion in that situation. And really, I don't see where it could hurt ratings any more than the current playoffs have hurt the ratings toward the end of the year as it stands now. Because if you look at the ratings for the playoffs this year, they were the worst ratings NASCAR has ever gotten for the end of the year. So kind of is just however you want to play it. If you like the playoffs, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But no matter which format you have, you're going to have to trade something off. Mark Barnum says, wonder if NASCAR will broadcast the awards live next year with all the heat they are getting about the delayed broadcast this year. I hope so. The award ceremony is something I've never watched. Even when Kyle Larson won last year, I didn't watch it. I don't remember ever watching one live, to be totally honest with you. It's just not my jam. I've never been a big award ceremony person. I watched the ESPYs one year, and I thought that was stupid. I tried watching I like watching movies and stuff like that a lot, or at least I did back in the day. I tried to watch an award ceremony for that. I just find them really stupid and corny. But that's just my opinion. If you like them, that's fine. I'm just telling you, they don't work for me. The way my brain is set up, I don't really care about an award ceremony. I don't want to sit through that, and I'm pretty sure drivers don't want to sit through it either. So I'm not going to pretend like it's going to upset me if they don't do it live or anything like that, because I don't watch them anyway. But for the people that do enjoy it, they should show it live, because if you show it live, it's always better, because they can't edit out the stuff that they want to edit out. Who knows what you missed in the in that particular awards ceremony? There could have been some goofs or gaffes or something like that, and now we don't know if NASCAR has taking those out because they don't want you to see them, because they might be embarrassing to NASCAR. Whereas you just play it live, you get to see some of that stuff. And yeah, it might not always be the greatest stuff in the world, but it makes for a more entertaining show because it's live. So I personally think they would be better served showing it live 100%. Aldis says NASCAR should rotate yearly. The chute, the carousel, and Sears Point, and it should be the third race of the season after Auto Club. I missed the previous one. BB, if NASCAR wants to keep racing at the Indy Road Course, they should use my ideal layout. If you call my Indy Road Course layout, and then he says NASCAR should rotate yearly. The chute, the carousel, the Sears Point. Well, I think NASCAR should rotate. It would make the Brickyard more special because you would only get to race the oval version of the Brickyard every other year. So if they're going to do it, I think they should do it that way. Rotate it to where you run Indy Roval one year, then you run the Indy Oval one year. So it would actually make winning the Oval Brickyard a little more prestigious or whatever. But that being said, most people, even though the Oval doesn't put on better racing, most people want the Oval back because there's just something special about winning the Brickyard 400 on the Oval. Jeremy Clements is incredibly underrated as a driver, says Molten Rage. Yeah, he definitely proved that last season. No doubt about it. Nobody can deny that he's good after last season, 100%. And Epileptic Bumblebee is once again agreeing with Molten Rage. He is her favorite, honestly. So there you go. The Bumblebee Rage ticket 2024 for your president. President Bumblebee, Vice President Rage. So there you go. That's your 2024 ticket. The following tracks should be sealed again with asphalt sealer: Darlington, Richmond Fairgrounds, and New Hampshire. Those tracks were beautiful with the sealer. I think the Richmond Fairgrounds, if they ever rebuilt that would be a great track. Or demolish Richmond and make it the Richmond Fairgrounds again. That track put on great racing. But if you remember, old Richmond used to put on good racing too before NASCAR kept fixing the car. And they took all the fun out of Richmond. Darlington's always good. You can seal it or not seal it. It's always going to be a good finish, and it's always going to be a good race. New Hampshire, you can do whatever you want to New Hampshire. I don't know if you can ever fix New Hampshire. It's just a tough racetrack to get around, and one person normally figures it out, and the rest of them are back there fighting for second. Molten Rage says, so if Jeremy Clemens next year completes 95% of the laps for the season in Xfinity, he is going to make history, being the fourth most laps completed of a driver in Xfinity. I hope that happens. It would be cool if it happened, for sure. Alice says the Lafferty's point format wasn't good either because of the bonus for leading laps, meaning someone who finishes in the top 10 can outscore the race winner. Just like stage points now. Yeah, but we fixed that by giving a massive points gap from first to second. So in my particular format, still using a basic Latford system, it would increase the gap there. So you are right about that. And that's all the fans ever wanted when they originally went to the chase format that was going to put emphasis on wins. It never really put emphasis on wins, and all fans ever wanted was more points for the winner. So instead of just modifying the Latford system like they should have done, they went to this god-awful chase system that turned into the playoffs. So it is what it is. That's just my opinion on it. If you like the chase in the playoffs, just ignore my hatred of them, because I hate them. I can't stand them. F1, Australian Supercars, and MotoGP don't have bonus points for leading laps. Racers go for the win. Yeah, but F1 has a bonus point for the fastest lap, so they do have bonus points built in. They also have bonus points for qualifying on the pole. So, I mean, no point system is perfect, and all point systems have bonus points somewhere. So I understand what you're saying, but no matter what the point system is, there is going to be a bonus point somewhere. Mark Barnum, Clements is the modern day Starting Park. He's just running all the laps though. But he's starting and running all the laps. I don't know. He had a pretty good year last year, so I don't know. Clem Zabrowski says if you want to go by yearly points, crown a champion just gives total points to the top three finishers. Well, that would be interesting too. If you don't score a podium, you don't get any points. That would make it mega competitive, and then you would still get sort of that's actually a pretty good system, Clem. I like it. You would actually get all of the aggressiveness of the playoffs, but you would get it every single race, because if you don't finish third, like it would actually, I think, help Austin Dillon, because sometimes I see Austin Dillon get a top 10. He's like, oh, I'm running 10th. I'm going to be, in my opinion, he gets complacent because he's like, oh, I'm getting a top 10. That'll be good. Whereas if he's like, oh, I'm in the top 10, but I need, several more spots to get third so I can get at least some points there, I think that would make it interesting. I like that top 3 format. You got to get a podium to get some points. I like that. Who cares if the title was clinched early? If you dominate, you deserve to win the title. I agree with that. And the battle for second and below can also be entertaining. I agree, especially if they would start announcing how much money you get for finishing second place. So I think that would be good too. Robin Mark says the awards shows suck. Do a poll. All right. So there we go. Starting a poll. Do you like awards shows? Ask the community. So there we go. So far, nobody has voted. Still at 0% for everything. All right. There we go. We got one vote. Looks like 86% right now are saying no. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. Let's see. Where do I leave off at? All right, Bo Darvel. If a football team is ahead by 30 points in the fourth quarter, should we reset the score because it's boring? No. Then why worry if someone wins the cup race before the last race? Yeah, I agree with you, Bo. The Bandit making a good point there. Like it doesn't matter that. Like the argument is basically this guy has kicked everybody's butt too good this season. We need to reset the championship points format to make it interesting. That just doesn't sit well with me. Like that would essentially be like, let's think about your workplace as your competitive environment. Oh, this guy's done really good this year. He's made a bunch of money. These other people over here didn't work as hard, didn't make as much money. We're going to take a chunk of his money and, give it to them. And then we're all going to start over again with 1 month left to work. But everybody's even. We've taken this guy's money and given it over here to them. That's essentially what it's like, right? Like if you're working and they took your money and gave it to all these other people who have been half-assing it all year. And then all of a sudden, all right, we're going to see who performs the best in this last month here. And then one of those guys wakes up, or one of those guys or girls wakes up and outworks you that last month when they haven't done squat all year. That's basically what it feels like to me in racing. Like these teams work all year. They work all year. We'll just call it because Chase Elliott did it this year. The number 9 car, that team did better than everybody this entire year, and then they don't win the championship because the championship comes down to one race. And the 22 team had the better strategy for the playoff system, but the 9 car, without a doubt, had the best season all year. So it really, the system doesn't make any sense. And Joey Logano is the champion. Let me be very clear about that. They played the system exactly how you play this system. My problem is with the system. I don't think the system is fair and rewards a champion, but it was the system that everybody had going in. So Joey Logano is the actual champion. It is what it is. They played the game the right way for this particular system. Bumblebee said, I would like to make I would make a good president. I would give away $1 million worth of free NASCAR tickets. There you go, with the big smiley face. I like the Latford system the most, honestly, says Bumblebee. I do too. I think it just needs to be modified where the winner gets so much more points for winning. But it is what it is. Molten Rage says Justin Allgaier always gets screwed in his cup starts every time he gets a reserve driver or gets caught up in a cup start. He gets screwed over by a wreck or just someone being overly aggressive, or he gets in a car that's just not competitive. I'll throw that in there too. That 77 car has never run good. Justin Allgaier drives a 48 in 2020 in the Brickyard because Jimmy Johnson got COVID. His race gets ruined because of a wreck on pit road. And then this year he was just an innocent bystander in a crash. Yep. That is the ballad of Justin Allgaier. I can't argue with any of that. He has had bad luck. Mark Barnum says Allgaier ran bad when he was in Cup. He will be a lifer in Xfinity. That's true. He did have the chance with Penske. He didn't do anything in that Penske car. So that is a fair criticism, although he only got like, 1 or 2 years there. So I don't know. I'd like to see him get like sort of like what I think the best case scenario for him would be to do something, the deal like AJ Allmendinger had set up this year where you could get like 12 or 13 races. So you could get a bigger sample size and he could work with a team, more than just super sporadically. Justin Allgaier needs something like some good luck because Oh my gosh, he cannot catch a break on his part-time starts in Cup. He just gets screwed by everyone for some reason. He also can't catch a break in winning an Xfinity Series title. He's had some great years. He's had some great runs, and then just terrible timing of cautions and things like that. He's had some good years where he probably should have been the Xfinity champion too. He is just a man of constant sorrow. Go ahead and play that song or whatever. Jeremy Clements is not a starting park. The man literally was running top 15 all year, at least, and always does. Plus, he can get a win every now and then, and does as well. Yeah, I don't agree that he's a starting park, but I do think he doesn't have the funds to run good every race. So I think he picks his spots on the races he can run good. And some races he is just running for that 15th spot, which is it's a strategy, right? It's what you got to do when you're an underfunded team. So I respect what he's doing. I respect what all the starting parks did, actually. They had a business plan to make money, and they were doing what they love doing, which is racing cars. Like Carl Long. Carl Long's one of my heroes. The dude's living his dream, and he was a starting park driver for just about his entire career. And now he owns a Xfinity Series team and used to own a Cup Series team before they switched over to the new body style of the car. And finally, NASCAR finally forced Carl Long out. They forced Carl Edwards out too, but in a different way. Forced Carl Long out of the Cup Series. NASCAR has finally accomplished what they wanted to do. They got Carl Edwards out of the Carl Long out of the Cup Series. Why do I keep saying Carl Edwards? He's on my mind because I read something about they were dissing Carl Edwards on Twitter and I didn't like it. Anyway, I'm sticking with having my Indy Speed Weeks, maybe the month of May in Indianapolis, 1st of May, IRP, Mother's Day Saturday, Brickyard 300, not the 400. Then the next weekend, the Indy Road Course under his layout with the extra distance on it. Elliott didn't win that's decent, and we've talked about that before. I think 2 speed weeks. We don't even have a speed weeks anymore. It's just speed week at Daytona. So having a speed week somewhere other than Daytona would add to the Indianapolis race, and also it would just be cool week. Elliott didn't win the championship because he was terrible in the entire playoffs. Besides winning Talladega, yeah, I mean he was bad in the playoffs, but he still had the best year, without a doubt. I agree with you. He did not have a good playoffs, but he definitely had a season good enough that he would have been the champion without a doubt under the Latford system. But that's neither here nor there. If Ross Chastain actually was probably the closest to catching him, and I think under the Latford system, Ross Chastain was still about 100 points behind him at the end of the year, or close to 100 points. I'm not 100% sure. I need to look at that again. Bo Darville, the band is Joey Logano is champion, the Mickey champion. Well, I think the system is a Mickey system. I don't think he's a Mickey champion. Like, he can't control the format that he races under. So it is what it is. I'm not going to put any of that on Joey Logano and the 22 team. They did exactly what they needed to do. They played the system. They've got a good strategy for this playoff system. This is their second championship under it. And the system is a Mickey system. I'll give you that. The system is trash, and NASCAR knows the system is trash. And NASCAR fans know the system is trash. And even casual fans that just kind of watch NASCAR know the system is trash. They know it doesn't award a deserving champion. Like, let's just be totally honest. It does not award a deserving champion. That being said, it is the championship system, and Joey Logano is the champion. You can't take that away from him. It's just not a good way of awarding a champion for a full season's worth of races. So it is what it is. Alda says Kyle Larson is the 2021 Cup champion, regardless of the points format. Same with Martin Truex Jr. in 2017 and Kyle Busch in 2019. So yeah, those are cool statistics right there that are always going to be really cool to look at, because there are some guys that have had seasons so good and they still do get it done in the playoffs because they just had that magical year. So you have 3 guys that you can legitimately point to and say, no matter what the system was, these guys won the championship. And I'm glad you brought that up, Aldis, because I look at that statistic all the time. So far, it's only been 3. I always want to see another guy do it, because to me, that to me waves a middle finger in the face of the system. Because regardless of how NASCAR picked the system, those guys won their championship either way. and the two Kyles and Martin Truex, 2019, 2017, and 2021. And if you look at that, those are all odd years. So 2023, we might get another one if you just look at the way it's trending. So hopefully we get another one in 2023. Somebody that just has an absolutely dominant season and wins everything, including the championship in any format you want to put it in. Camaro 50 says being a playoff driver and losing a playoff race to a non-playoff driver is like the Bucks playing the Lions and the Chiefs playing the Texans a week before the Super Bowl and both losing. That's pretty good. That's a pretty apt analogy. Like, what if they just decided because the Lions won a game in week 12? Let's just say week 12 is a special week, and whoever wins that week gets into the playoffs. The Lions win, get in the playoffs, and then somehow upset the Chiefs in round one of the playoffs as the wild card or whatever. That, how much sense would that make? It doesn't make any sense, but that's how NASCAR basically does their playoff system. Jeremy Clemens, fun fact, they do not use ECR engines to build their own engines. It's very interesting. That's probably why they're not as fast like other big teams that don't use big team motors. Yeah, hopefully they can get ECR engines going forward. Correction, Carl Long is still in Cup. He owns MBM. He's part owner, so he still is in Cup. MBM has Cup cars. They didn't kick him out of Cup. They kicked him out of Cup full time is what I was getting at. He used to be full time. Used to see Timmy Hill every single weekend. So you're right. He's still technically in there, but he's not running for points. So they've effectively backed him down to part time, which sucks. Anyway, Indy Oval 2020. There's a pile up on pit road in stage one because some reason someone pushed the 47 to the front. Half the guys in the back. What the hell? I mean, we watched all of what was it? We've had a ton of races like that in 2022. So 2022 had a bunch of those rando races as well. Alda says, honestly, don't know if Austin Dillon deserves his 2013 nationwide Xfinity title. The format at that time was the Latford points format. Austin Dillon had no wins en route to a title. I mean, you don't have to win to have the best season. That's just the way it is. I don't know. Under the Latford system, I don't see any champions that were undeserving unless they got some random penalty from NASCAR. You can make an argument for Mark Martin the year he didn't win and Dale Earnhardt won. That Mark Martin should have won because that penalty was kind of chintzy. But aside from that, anybody that wins under the Latford system, they had the best overall season. So I don't know, especially if they never even won the race, they had to have a hell of a season to not win a race and win a title. Old home guy says Ross, Eric, Joey, Alex, and Ryan are going to be tough contenders next season. I agree with you. Ross Chastain is going to be solid. Eric Jones, with the influx of money from Petty GMS, he's going to be really good as well. Joey Logano's in his peak right now, so he's going to be really tough to deal with, especially in Penske equipment. Alex Bowman has started to come into his own. If he can stay healthy and get more consistent, he's going to be super hard to deal with. And Ryan Blaney, if he can get some consistency as well and keep his head on his shoulders when things go wrong, he can really, really be a contender as well. So I agree with you, home guy. I like all those picks. Don McLeese said, where did Bubba finish in most popular driver? Enough said. Well, he didn't even make the top 10. So, and they don't, that's the other thing I hate about the most popular driver. They don't show who got all of what votes, but yeah, he didn't finish well in that. He is not, like I said, they did the poll on betting.com or whatever, a French website, I believe. It's either French or German website talking about Twitter talk. And even before he wrecked Kyle Larson and that became a controversy, well before that happened, he was the most disliked driver in NASCAR by quite a wide margin. So, yeah, he did not do well in that. But you would expect him to do better, right? Like, he's got the backing of Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. He's got a ton of fans. Just because he's hated doesn't mean he doesn't have any fans. So I'm really surprised that they don't do better to get the word out to get him in the top 10 at least. I remember that year that he didn't, like, when they did the fan vote for the All-Star race and he didn't get the fan vote. I forgot who got the fan vote over him, but I was like, damn, man, they do as good of things as 23XI does. They do a really poor job of, like, getting fan vote stuff out there. And like, he should easily be top 10 with all the fans and stuff that he actually does have. Now I know he's got plenty of people that do not like him, but he does have a ton of fans also. He should easily be top 10 every time there's any type of voting metric. So it is what it is. Bumblebee says, let's quit crying over points and get to some high rock and have some fun. Yeah, I would like some high rock right now myself. Didn't bring a cold one with me today, going with water. Seriously, I don't know how that happens. How the hell does one car turn on the Indy Oval that causes a big pileup in the back and takes out multiple cars out of the race early? What the hell? That's just restarts, buddy. It happens. Don McLeese, Mark, I was being sarcastic. So was Mark. So you both are vehemently agreeing with each other that you don't like old B-Dub. So it is what it is, which it does not make you unique. There's a ton of people that do not like him. I don't really think about the guy. He's neither here nor there. He's starting to show where he can run pretty good, but other than that, he's not quite on my radar just yet as far as abilities. He's still like way too streaky. He's sort of like a really streaky Eric Almirola to me. Eric Almirola is super consistent and wins a race here and there. Bubba Wallace is just super streaky and wins a race here and there. That's how I'm seeing him right now. So almost like a Chase Briscoe, but not quite. Aldous says, I recommend you watching a history of NASCAR's points format on NASCAR Man's History channel. See how even the Latford points format was also trashed. I lived through it, Aldous. I remember it being trashed. It is what it is, buddy. Like, it doesn't matter what your points format is. When somebody's driver doesn't win the championship, and a lot of people like that driver, the points format is going to get trashed. It is what it is. That being said, it is worlds better than the playoff format. And like I said, all you got to do to the Latford system is modify it. First off, just take off all the extra points, like 300 or whatever points for winning a race. Get rid of that. Just do, 43 points for the we'll go 53 points for the first place finisher, and then the next finisher gets only 40 points. It is what it is. It's a better system that way. We ain't going to talk about the 14% stout that had BBC and 96 of everything. Yeah, so I drank a Dark Ages from Wicked Weed, and I didn't pay attention to it. And it was because I'll just have a beer with dinner every once in a while, or a beer after dinner every once in a while. And that joker was like 14% alcohol, and I didn't pay any attention to it. And I just started drinking it, and I drank it like a normal. It was a 12-ounce beer, but it was in a really big bottle. So I just drank it like a normal beer and wasn't really paying any attention. Didn't really feel any differently until I stood up. Then when I stood up, I was like, holy crap. Like, what was it? Like, so I sat back down real quick. I spun the bottle around and I was like, holy crap, 14%. So yeah, I got on the, it's Dark Ages by Wicked Weed. So if you get the Dark Ages by Wicked Weed, be careful. You have been warned. Bloney, I was talking about the pit road incident in 2020, Indy Oval incident, not the restart, just correcting. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it. I remember there being a wreck, but I don't really remember what you're talking about, so I'm trying to skip over it. Sorry, Moulton. I just don't remember it. I remember there just being a big pile up. I don't know. Robin Marks, I like Ross. I like Ross Chastain too. He's a pretty good dude, pretty solid driver. Let's see. Oh, I need to set my fantasy team at some point too. Let's see. If NASCAR is split in two, they will bring in new manufacturers. Yeah, that would be a good point. That would actually bring in new manufacturers. So if they actually split in two, that would be the interesting thing. If they kept the powertrains the same, like if NASCAR kept their powertrain the same, and if the RTA decided that they would do the exact same powertrain as NASCAR, I think we would actually get new manufacturers in there. And inevitably, when the split remerged, you would have new manufacturers in Cup. So that would be the only that would only be the only good thing about it, I think. But other than that, I think it would basically kill the sport almost. It will put it on bigger life support than it is now. If NASCAR execs are doing a good job right now, why are sponsors like Kellogg's, Lowe's, DirecTV, Cheerios, Office Depot, Miller, Coors, 3M, Nationwide Insurance leaving the sport, etc.? My contingency there would be, where I'm challenging you there is, I don't think anybody has said NASCAR execs are doing a good job. I don't see where anybody said that. Old Home Guy says, awesome shirt. Appreciate it. A lot of people liking the Yugo shirts. There you go. Yugo 4-5. There's the full shirt. JD Motorsports News. Brendan Poole will drive full-time in 2023. Bailey Curry will return to the 4. And JDM is still trying to get his 0 car back on track. There you go. So it's pretty cool that Brendan Poole is back. He got a lot of buzz with the Eric Estep face thing. So hopefully his career takes off. And we have seen these cars from time to time be competitive. Bailey Curry, he's been in that 4 car for a while. Hopefully he can get something going in that 4 car. And the 0 car, hopefully they can find somebody to put in that. I think Jeffrey Earnhardt ran it a few times last year, so maybe he will be back in it. I don't know. Alda says 900 horsepower everywhere. It will also help road courses, producing better racing as well. 670 is not enough, and it did not help the racing product at road courses this season. So I do agree with that. The 670 horsepower is not enough. How much actual horsepower you need to make it enough to get that tire fall off and all that good stuff, I couldn't tell you. But that's hard to say. But you definitely need more horsepower than 670, especially with that great big spoiler that they've got on the back of the cars. That's another issue. The bigger the spoiler, definitely the more horsepower you need. NASCAR has literally done everything to just, I don't know, make these cars, I don't want to say easier to drive, but on a road course, they're definitely, in my opinion, way easier to drive because you got the rack and pinion steering. You've got the massive spoiler on the back, and you've got less horsepower. So on a road course, they're definitely easier to drive. Now, they're definitely harder to drive on an oval because it was just something that the teams hadn't seen. So they're having to tweak on them and figure out how to make them handle on an oval. So we have seen the oval races, especially the 1.5 miles. They were super competitive this year, but it hurt the road courses. So the 2 packages they need to look at absolutely are road courses and short tracks. They need more horsepower on both of those. And for the road courses, I think you need to knock some spoiler off as well. And for the short tracks, spoiler really, it really won't matter that much on a short track, but you could knock it down. It wouldn't hurt nothing. And also, they need to take the underbody out for the short tracks as well, because the cars can't get down because of those blocks right there protecting the underbody. But they said that they will address those packages in the off season, and hopefully that will fix it. I don't see a split. Sponsorship will dictate where they race, says Old Home Guy. Yeah, I don't think they'll actually split either. I think that they will run some. I think 2023, the RTA will run some whatever they want to call them. But basically, they'll run those races as just a way to show NASCAR that they can do it and put some pressure on NASCAR to get some of that. This is all about TV money. This is all about the race teams, the RTA, getting a bigger cut of the TV money. And make no doubt about it, a lot of that is because Michael Jordan and his group got into this, and they came from the NBA, right? They're looking at how the NBA is structured and how NASCAR has structured their TV money. And Michael Jordan's group looked at that. And once Michael Jordan's group looked at that and talked to all the other owners in the RTA, and they realized how bad they were getting screwed on TV money, that's when all this blew up and became a huge issue. So make no doubt about it, the reason we're having this conversation is because Michael Jordan's financial people looked at the RTA or looked at the TV money and said, this is ridiculous. And so that is why we're here. I know some people don't agree with that, but Michael Jordan didn't become a billionaire by accident. So he's got good people in place as far as that goes. Now, you can talk about how he ran the Charlotte Hornets all you want to. Yeah, they haven't been good. But as far as making money, that side of it is good. He's making money with the Charlotte Hornets. He is going to make money with 2311, and he is going to get some of that TV money from NASCAR before all this is said and done. So even back when he was a player, he was he was a players union representative, and he got the players' money. Now that he's an owner, he's getting the owner's money. So wherever he goes, whatever team he is aligned with, he is going to get the most money out of it. Molten Rage, 3M is still around. They're on contingency sponsors and Cup cars, so they're not completely gone. They're just not a big sponsor anymore. Yeah, so a lot of these have become NASCAR corporate sponsors, which is another problem. NASCAR is poaching sponsors from teams that are running them on cars, which is highly unethical, and nobody really talks about it. But NASCAR shouldn't be doing that, and they definitely poach sponsors from regular race car teams, and it's completely shady. Uh, but what can you do about it? Aldis said John Haas was the one who said that NASCAR execs are doing a good job. LOL. Just, I mean, I don't know, Aldis. You and John are having a battle, so I'm staying out of that. Y'all two can battle with each other, but I don't think they're doing a great job. Me personally. News: Sage Karam returns to APR for selected races in 2023. So that'll be good for Sage. Sage has showed some potential. He could get it done. He just definitely needs more starts. Like a lot of guys, just needs more starts. Rajah Caruth will compete full time. I did see that one. I hadn't talked about that one yet, but I needed to. Rajah Caruth will compete full time in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series in 2023, piloting the number 24 for Petty GMS. So there you go. That's what I've always thought. I always thought he was going to be in the Petty fold. Now where he ends up when he gets the Cup, and I do think he will get the Cup because he's majorly talented. Whether it be with Petty GMS or another team, he's definitely, I think, going to be a Chevy guy. And I think Chevy is going to bring him up and find a spot for him. Dwayne Mueller says Kevin Harvick will be the best driver at SHR next year. If he gets better equipment, he'll be a force to reckon with. I agree with you 100% on that. And let's see here. I think I missed a couple. Oh, Don McLeese. I saw this one earlier, and I was like, where did that one go? Is Harvick's retirement based on how he runs next year? No. He has said he will make a decision before the Daytona 500 this year as to which direction he's going. So it's actually not going to be based on how he runs. He's going to make He said he's going to make a decision. Whether he announces that decision or not, he did not say. But he said he'll make a decision personally to himself before the Daytona 500. What tracks have safe barriers that aren't contracted with NASCAR? Well, the safer barriers would be something that the RTA could just not have. Like they might not see where you need a safety barrier. They might just run tracks that are small enough. They might just run nothing but short tracks, and they wouldn't need a safety barrier. Old home guy. So they might just skip the safer barriers and say we're not going fast enough to need a safer barrier. So they could run just some short tracks that people want to see NASCAR cars run at, or whatever car that they would be running, whether they just pull out some late models or something like that. So I think that's what you could see going forward. Aldis Carosa says Elite Precision said it best with 800 to 900 horsepower. It will help with road courses and short tracks. What I would do is 900 horsepower and a 3.5-inch spoiler. I'm with you on that. At RCs, and short tracks, 1 milers and 1.2 milers, plus the X pipe. A lot of people want the X pipe. I don't know if that would help or hurt anything, but the X pipe is something that a lot of people are pushing for. So yeah, I agree with you, Aldis. I think more horsepower and a shorter spoiler would definitely help. But for short tracks, you're gonna have to get that car to travel down. Those blocks that are holding it up to protect the underbody, they've got to go. That underbody's got to go. Mark Barnum says, love the way Harvick is growing Keelan's career, has him in Europe racing to develop his skills. Saw a video of him in his Legends car in the rain. Kid will be a force. Yeah, pretty cool video. We also saw where Keelan parked that thing and bent the left front suspension, but they got him patched back up and got him back out there. Harvick said slight break in the action as they fixed that car. But yeah, he's out there making laps, getting his experience. And Kevin Harvick also said the best thing they ever did was Keelan Harvick wanted to quit at one point, and they said, well, you can quit at the end of this season, but you've already committed to doing, all these races. Once you've completed these races, you can quit. And they said it's the best thing they ever did because after a while, he just got over it. And he was just mad because he wasn't performing where he wanted to perform. But after a while, he got over it, and now he just loves racing. So actually holding him to his word that he said he was going to complete all those races was the best thing they ever did because it just made him love the sport more. So let's see. Lives Fast Motorsports is moving to Chevy is a shocker. The 78 is back with the Chevy camp for the first time since 2015. So there you go. There's a fun fact about the 78. And hopefully that can, because who is it? Matt Tift. Matt Tift has said several times that they want to be competitive. They're just not competitive yet, but they have a long-term goal of being competitive. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction of being competitive. Hopefully we can see them running for some top 20s, which will be a huge improvement for them, as they're typically one of the first cars, along with Rick Ware Racing, to go a lap down. So hopefully with this increase in horsepower, they've got some better setups. We can see that car start to creep into the top 20 zone, which would be a huge improvement. Both our local short tracks have safer barriers for the record, says Bumblebee. So, yeah, there are some out there. I can't name them off the top of my head. South Boston doesn't have them. Orange County doesn't have them. Ace Speedway doesn't have them. So that's all I can tell you, because those are the tracks I go to the most. Florence definitely doesn't have them, because Florence, they don't even have a wall on the backstretch. So they would have to choose wisely where they wanted to run. And Florence is also a NASCAR sanctioned track, I think. Both our local short tracks have safer barriers, for the record. I just read that, going crazy over here. Alda says the number 14 is supposed to be the flagship team at Stewart-Haas, but ever since Stewart's performance fell off, it hasn't been, and sponsors didn't come to the 14 until 2021. That's a fair point. And that's been indicative of Tony Stewart's career. The 20 was the bigger, for the longest time, the 20 was the bigger car at Joe Gibbs Racing, even though the 18 was the first number they ever had. The 20 car was the number to have for a long time, because Tony Stewart was driving it, because Tony Stewart was constantly finishing really good and winning races, getting into the playoffs or whatever you want to call them. So the 20 was, for the longest time, the premier number over at Joe Gibbs. Tony Stewart leaves. They bring up Joey Logano way too early. Joey Logano doesn't do as good as he could in that 20 car. He still had pretty solid seasons. I think they were just way too hard on him. But then, of course, they get rid of Joey Logano, and now the 20 is the worst car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Same thing with the 14. The 14 was the car over there when it was just Ryan Newman and Tony Stewart. But then when Kevin Harvick came over, you slowly started to see it go toward the 4 car. And then when Tony Stewart retired, of course, the 4 car became heads and shoulders above everybody as the most recognized number, with the exception, well, Danica Patrick for a little while, her number was more recognized, but it wasn't the lead car by any stretch of the imagination. She was just a big PR, big PR deal. So if you want to go ahead and vote, I'm going to end the poll here in just about 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so go ahead and vote, because I'm going to close it now. It looks like 63% no is the final number on the poll. 62% no. Got some last-minute voters in there. Both our local short tracks have safer barriers. Read that again. I'm going to read that 3 more times. Sean Kaminsky says, I like to see them in Tucson Speedway. So there you go. Tucson would be a good one. Arizona is a great place to visit. So if you haven't been to Arizona and you are thinking about it, definitely go to Arizona. Really, really cool place from my visit there. Eric Almirola is incredibly disrespected. He's a better driver than people say. Like, he's actually not a bad driver. He's been pretty decent in the 10. Heck, he wasn't bad this year. I don't see where anybody's ever said Eric Almirola is a bad driver. He's sort of in the same boat as Austin Dillon. He just doesn't get the respect he deserves. They get good, solid finishes. They don't get as many wins as a lot of people, but they definitely get a lot of good, solid finishes. And they're both really good drivers. Just neither one of them get brought up when you talk about good drivers, because they're not the top 10. They're probably 12th to 16th. I would put them solidly in the top 15. So 11th to 15th would be where Eric Almirola and Austin Dillon fall. So they just don't get talked about as much. Clint Boyer and Kyle Larson's kids race against each other a lot, says Old Home Guy. Yep. And Brexton is rapidly getting in that mix and approaching. So we've actually got a bunch of kids to watch here coming up. You've got Keelan Harvick. You've got Brexton Bush. You've got Cash Boyer, I think's his name. Is it Cash? And then you got Owen for Kyle Larson. So you got 4, just off the top of my head, 4 little kids to watch coming up. I guess they're not necessarily little. Let's see. Bring back the Winter Heat series for young talent to show off their stuff. That would be really cool. Good comment from Don McLeese. I don't know how many people remember the Winter Heat series, but that would be really cool. That could be what the RTA does. Yeah, we will see what Chase B does next season. I would put money on him. Man, my feelings are hurt, says Cassandra Keller. Yeah, Chase Briscoe had a heck of a playoff run. He did almost everything he could to get into the playoffs. What a heartbreak at Martinsville. God, he fought his heart out trying to win that race. He did everything he could do. Obviously, that tire thing was never going to work, but he made it work a lot longer than it ever would have worked. NASCAR should definitely leave Goodyear. Well, they're not going to. They just re-up with Goodyear, so that's off jump. We're not doing good here. They just re-signed with Goodyear, Aldis. Either Firestone or Pirelli, and there should be 3 different tire compounds: soft, medium, hard, plus your rain tires at road courses. I would like to see a different tire compound type deal like they do in IndyCar or F1. I think that would make the racing interesting. But that being said, we're trying to decrease the cost of the sport, and that would not decrease it at all, in my opinion. Alda says the number 20 at JGR now is becoming the top team again. Yeah, it is now the top team now that Bell is there, but still the 11 is going to be the top. The 11 and the 19 are going to be above him as far as fans look at it. But he is probably the best driver in that stable right now. And finished second in 2013 with Kenseth, and the 20 was decent with Kenseth around. Yeah, the 20 was decent with Kenseth, but it was never the top car because as long as Kyle Busch was there, he was going to be the top car. So the 18 was the bigger number there. But the 20 will be the bigger number when Truex and Hamlin retire. He will be the man at Stewart-Haas, at Joe Gibbs Racing. Some argument can be made for Ty Gibbs being the man over there, but I think Christopher Bell is going to end up being a better driver than him. But that's just my opinion. I don't really have anything to go off other than I just think he's going to be the better driver. Who goes to the 4 and the 10? Should be the 00 at Stewart-Haas when Harvick and Almirola retire. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing. I don't know. That's just a really good. That's a hard question to answer. One of them will definitely be Cole Custer. Riley Herbst is the only other person really you can think of right now because he's the only other person in the Stewart-Haas lineup, because I thought Haley Deegan was lining up to slide in there and get that ride, but she seems to be going with RFK. I feel like she's going to be like an RFK alliance because all the Stewart-Haas stuff, they don't have any alliances anymore. So I feel like Haley Deegan is more likely to go like an RFK route now. But it'll be interesting. But at one point I was thinking it would be like Haley Deegan and Cole Custer, and then you've got Ryan Preece and Eric Almirola. So Chase Briscoe. So I think that'll probably be what you see there going forward. But how that actually happens, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of time in between that because we know at least Eric Almirola is going to be there for 2 more years. Harvick could be done after this year. We'll just have to wait and see. Who do you think will be contenders in network packages? I don't know if ESPN dips their toe back in. That's a hard thing to say. CBS, maybe, but I really think it's just going to be Fox and NBC again. The only one I know Fox for sure. I feel like Fox will be back. NBC is the wild card. If NBC gives up the sport, maybe CBS slides in, but it would just be really interesting to see what happens there. I think if that happened, you could see a total overhaul in how NASCAR does their deal. So I don't know. CBS is the only one I see because I don't know if ESPN is interested in doing NASCAR. They seem to be all in on F1. David Griffith says, I think Harvick is done. I agree with you. I think he's going to retire after this year too, but that's just my opinion. I'll wait for him to come out and talk about it. But he said he'll decide before the season starts. I think so. Briscoe needs to have his Xfinity crew chief back. I agree 100%. I don't know. I'm not a fan of breaking up these crew chiefs. So like if crew chiefs do good in the Xfinity series, I've always thought they should move them up with their driver to the Cup series, and then move the other guy down and let him train up the next driver that you've got in the pipeline, and then bring him back up like that. I thought that would be the best way to do it. Dwayne Miller says your head is gone. LOL. Yeah. So the problem, I keep messing up. I'm trying to answer one question while reading another question. I got to stop doing that. I've done that like 6 times a day, and that's when I'm just like, yeah, that's been the problem today. I'm trying to get too far ahead of myself. I need to just focus on the question I'm talking about at the time. So many companies are buying internet ads. There might be money that there was in the past, says Old Home Guy. So yeah, that's actually what I'm talking about. Like they could rethink about how they do the whole deal. Just let both of the TV contracts expire, and then just go to a streaming service like YouTube could definitely handle it, because YouTube's been handling it with the in-car cameras. And you could also, see a situation where Amazon has handled it pretty well with the Thursday Night Football deal. They could easily do the Sunday race on Amazon. And Netflix would be another contender. Netflix is trying to think outside of the box to get more people in there. Netflix has no sports presence. So if Netflix got NASCAR, that would make a lot of people subscribe to Netflix. And Netflix needs to think out of the box, because they keep bleeding subscribers every single month, it seems like. Every single time you look at Netflix, it looks like it's negative news. So this is something Netflix or somebody like that could do to sort of boost their sports side of things and start building a sports side to Netflix, which I think is desperately needed. Even Apple TV has recognized they need a sports side to it. They paid all that money for the MLS, and now you can watch the MLS on Apple TV. So they've done a great job with that. Netflix needs to think outside of the box and do something like that as well. So I think if they just let the TV contracts run out and renegotiate it with streaming services, you could get more advertisements, because I feel like more advertisements are coming in to streaming services and internet sources like that. So I think it would be easier to free up some money for sponsorship that way. So good point there, Home Guy. Alda says, same question for the 19 gets retired when the 18 returns, and the 11 at JGR. Who's going to get it? I think Joe Gibbs Racing, this is not a popular opinion. I think Joe Gibbs Racing will keep the 11. They'll drop the 19. They'll bring the 18 back when they drop the 19. And then they will have the 18, the 20, the 11, and the 54. I think that's what they will have going forward. And who gets in the 18 car will be the interesting thing going forward as well. Does the 18 car become the new 20 car as far as the low man on the totem pole at the Gibbs organization? That'll be interesting to watch. Mold Ray says, no Chase Briscoe crew chief right now is fantastic. He's got the best crew chief. If he got a crew chief who, if we just minus last year, has never missed the NASCAR playoffs. I don't know. I don't know if it's the crew chief or if it's just Chase Briscoe, which could be a byproduct of the crew chief. Chase Briscoe just being Chase Briscoe and doing too many crazy moves. Like, it's great to be aggressive, but he takes himself out of races just as much as he wins races. So that's one thing he could absolutely work on and improve himself. And once he improves on that, then we can probably worry about a crew chief. But I wasn't talking about Chase Briscoe specifically. I know the question was brought up about Chase Briscoe. I'm just saying, when you've got a guy that does good in the Xfinity series, like, say, Cole Custer, bring Cole Custer up with the crew chief he had in the Xfinity series, and it would be an easier transition for him, in my opinion. I've always thought that that's the better way to do it. Robin Marks says, focus, Grasshopper. The ADD is strong with this one, Robin Marks. So I'll try to tighten it up here. Alda says, I ship Fox, Daytona 500, Coke 600, CBS Summer, ABC Bristol night race until the season finale at Homestead, Miami. So you're breaking it up into 3. That would be so hard to follow. I don't know if NASCAR, I wish they hadn't done 2. But if they go to 3, it's going to be hard to follow. Like, it's going to confuse people at first. We'll get used to it like we always do, though. So having 3 people carry the races would be interesting. The summer series, like on TNN or TNT or whatever it was back in the day, that could be a thing again as well. Don McLeese says Stewart Haas Racing needs Zane Smith in there in their camp. That's Stewart Haas Racing getting Zane Smith. That would actually be the better move there, in my opinion. So yeah, plug Zane Smith in there and take out Haley Deegan. until she at least runs in Xfinity and shows what she can do in Xfinity. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. For whatever reason, Zane Smith escaped my mind there. But also, Zane Smith just announced how many races he is going to run in Cup next season. I didn't get a chance to read that full article, so for sure, I need to get on that. But Zane Smith has announced how many Cup races he's running next season. NASCAR goes to total streaming. I am gone, says Mark Barnum. Oh, I'm not total streaming. Like it would still be on like regular TV. You could just stream it as well. Was what I was getting at there, because you can do that with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball does it like that. And they just block things in your area. Like, so you have to, like, if it's on regular TV in your area, they would block it. Unfortunately for Major League Baseball, their area where they block games is a little too large. That's been the big complaint about them. Old Home Guy says, Amazon, hell no. He has enough money, treats people like crap. I agree with you, but we've only got so many platforms to choose from, Old Home Guy. You got to pick one of them. I don't think any of them necessarily are employee first. Let's put it that way. Charlotte Anders says, I don't see JGR letting the 11 go to 2311. Joe's allegiance to Denny is nothing compared to the memory of his son. I agree. That's what I think. I think they'll hold on to the 11 for a long time, and I also think they'll hold on to the 18. Old Home Guy says, Denny Hamlin will purchase the rights to the number 11. 2311 will have a 23 and 11 numbers on the car. That's the common theory, but I just don't see Joe Gibbs letting that 11 car go. Him and Denny are pretty tight, though, so I don't know. It could happen. I don't know. I don't see him letting go of it because I feel like it has sentimental value. That being said, if he lets it go to anybody, it would be Denny Hamlin. I just don't think they'll let it go. That's just my thoughts on it. I got nothing to prove. Prove one way or the other. It's just how I feel about it. Molten Ray said it's 100% on Chase Briscoe. His crew chief is fantastic. He doesn't make any mistakes. It's always been on Chase Briscoe making over-aggressive rookie mistakes that caused him good point stays. That's a fair statement. I can't disagree with it. For all the talent he's got, he still does some crazy stuff. He's almost Ricky Stenhouse-like. Don McLeese, who runs Joe Gibbs Racing once Joe is gone? Well, I think right now they're going to have to find somebody, because basically Coy was running it. So they're going to have to find somebody to replace him. And whoever they replace him with is probably going to run it until Ty Gibbs retires. So whenever Ty Gibbs retires, I pretty much see him running it. But for the immediate future, it's going to be whoever they replace Coy Gibbs with. Rest in peace, Coy Gibbs. Terrible situation. Just a bad deal. Charlotte Ander, bringing a driver up with their Xfinity crew chief is smart. Brad Kay didn't do much other than get put into the fence by the 99 until Penske promoted Paul Wolfe to Cup. There you go. Once, and it's not necessarily that, you know, the crew chief is better than another crew chief. It's just that you already have that chemistry that you know that works. And once you get that chemistry and that understanding, basically the hardest thing to do in motorsports is understand what the driver is saying when he's saying loose. And how loose it is or how tight it is. But once you get that understanding, once you get that dialogue and that nomenclature down with how that driver communicates, that is a very valuable tool. So if you just keep them together, the crew chief can learn the Cup car. That's not ever going to be an issue because they wouldn't have made it to crew chief if they didn't understand cars. So I've always thought it was a good idea. If you have a good formula in Xfinity or trucks, just move them up to Cup with that same crew chief. NASCAR should live stream races. This is Aldis on Netflix, Flow Racing, and more NASCAR programs, and on YouTube for free. Qualifying and practice and truck races should be on MAV TV. So there you go. Aldis has it handled over there. I think they do need a streaming service at some point because that's just the way it's trending. But they also need to keep it on regular TV. Like if you just put it on regular TV and had it on streaming services, you would make so much more money than just the TV money from the commercials that they're getting now, because cable TV is dying. Like there's no way around it. Cassandra Keller says, thank you, Molden. Mark Barnum says Zane Smith will stay at front row. He might stay at front row. That's a very good point, especially now that they have that alliance with RFK. You could see them building something with Zane Smith going forward in the future. No doubt about that. So there you go. And also, if he doesn't stay with Front Row, is Front Row a spot that could open up for Haley Deegan? So just however you want to spin it, it's going to be very interesting. But you could see eventually in the future Todd Gilliland and Zane Smith, because I think they're big on Todd Gilliland. He brings in a little money, and they've had him in the system for a long time, and that would be bad news for Michael McDowell, or it might be good news for Michael McDowell, because what if Michael McDowell gets a job somewhere else, racing for somebody else? That's something that a lot of people haven't talked about. What if Stuart Haas goes and gets Michael McDowell, or when one of those guys retires? I think Michael McDowell is a super underrated free agent that could be plucked up at any time if somebody wants to put him in there, along the lines of Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie is also another underrated free agent. So all kinds of stuff could happen over there at Stuart Haas with all those drivers potentially leaving fairly soon. All corporations and companies are profit. Employees aren't, says Robin Marks. Agree with you. Talking earlier about the Amazon deal we were just talking about. Aldous, Charlotte Anderson says, Aldous, the radio broadcast is free every week. The NASCAR drive stream gives you several free camera angles too. Free streaming for every race already exists for sure. We just want a free streaming version of the broadcast. I think the NBA is on YouTube TV too, other than NBA League Pass. So yeah, it seems to be trending that way, and NASCAR needs to get on board. NASCAR needs to look at the profit train. NASCAR is all about making money. They prove that every single day. They need to look at the streaming profit train and jump on it before it is too late. It is disappointing. Molten Rage says, it is disappointing. Race of all time has to be the All-Star race at Bristol. Bristol's usually a great race, but the All-Star race was so forgettable for some reason for a Bristol race. How is that possible? I mean, it is what it is, buddy. They can't all be winners. So part of the problem with the All-Star race is the format. These 10-lap shootouts that they shoot for every single time, that's just going to hurt your product more times than it's going to help it. So they really just need to let them run a 50-lap race or a 100-lap race and just let the thing run out and stop throwing these unnecessary cautions in there. That's part of the problem. So it is what it is. Old home guy JGR will be up for sale soon. No Legacy waiting, ready to go. Maybe Toyota will buy it. Maybe Jordan. I don't know. I don't think Jordan could buy all of it. He would have to sell off 2 charters because you can only have 2 charters at a time. That's hard to say. Toyota could buy it. That would be interesting, where a manufacturer actually owns the whole team. That would be an interesting deal. But yeah, I don't know if it'll be up for sale, but that's interesting. That's an interesting premise to think about for sure. I hadn't given that much thought, but I don't know that it'll get sold anytime soon. Bristol stolen anytime soon. Bristol Unforgettable should never exist, but somehow the All-Star race at Bristol from 2020 did. It somehow made a Bristol race forgettable. How is that possible? That's disappointing as hell. I mean, they just can't all be winners, Molten. Name an All-Star race recently that's been exciting. That would be my question. Very rarely is the All-Star race any good. That's why Winston wanted to ditch it back in the day before they put it under the lights. The All-Star race has always had problems. Dwayne Mueller, kids stream everything. Want to build a fan base, live stream the races, even on the NASCAR site. Thank you, Dwayne Mueller. That is a very good point. And I forgot to bring that up. So yeah, like, NASCAR wants the younger audience and all that, so you have to look at what the younger audience is watching sports through, and you've got to stream stuff. So that's the other big elephant in the room. And you've got to make it free, because kids are not going to pay money to. It's just the way it is. They don't have necessarily disposable income to spend on stuff like that. Now they'll buy sneakers and all kinds of other stuff that their parents will buy for them, but you got to make it free so that they can watch it for free. Crazy Eights, when Joe goes to the next world, it will be Ty Gibbs racing. Thank you, Grandpa. That's what I think too. 100% Crazy Eights. Aldous says, I honestly miss fuel mileage races. Me too, especially at Pocono and New Hampshire. Stage racing actually ruined having fuel mileage races. I agree with you 100%, Aldous. 100%. Robin Mark says, TV is dead. I'm super old. Grew up with it, but pulled the plug and only stream now. Cable sucked. Yep. But unfortunately, with all these streaming services, a lot of people are paying more now for the streaming services than they were for cable. So if the streaming services don't get it together, you could see a resurgence in cable. if they don't just chill out with their prices. Like it seems like every month they're just creeping them up just a little bit more. It's so stupid. It is what it is. I see Deegan races in a sport car series next year at Ford. I see Deegan racing in a sports car series next year if a Ford ride doesn't develop. She's going to be in the Xfinity series. Old home guy. She'll be in the Xfinity series, and it'll be either an RFK or a Stewart-Haas funded car. Charlotte Ander, radio is not a broadcast. Radio is greater than TV coverage. Yeah, but people still want to watch it, Charlotte. I agree with you. The radio have the better commentators, but people still want to see the race. And the in-car camera doesn't work for everybody. Nor does the overhead view that they sometimes do. Or you mean the TV broadcast stream? Yeah, the TV broadcast stream, Charlotte. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, 100%. Like what we used to do back in the day was just turn off the announcers because as much as I like Buddy Baker's book, I couldn't stand Buddy Baker as an announcer. So we would just put the TV on mute and listen to MRN back in the day and watch the race. And it was pretty funny because the radio broadcast was usually 7 seconds faster than the TV broadcast. So you about 7 seconds before something happened, you knew it was about to happen. Yeah, I do agree with you. The radio broadcast is awesome. I wish they would just let MRN call the races, to be totally honest with you. I see Deegan in the 8 car. David Starr wrecks that car every week. That's the big SS Greenlight is Mark Barnum. Good point. SS Greenlight, the 08 car, is where a lot of people think Hailie Deegan is going to go. And it's just going to be a Stewart-Haas car under the SS Greenlight banner. No, you can have fewer than 2 charters. Rick Ware had 4 charters last year. Yeah, I know you can have more than 4, but if he bought Gibbs, he would have 4 charters, right? Follow my math here. 2311 already has 2 charters, so that would be 6 charters. That's what I'm saying. He would have to sell 2 of the charters, Moulton. Robin Marks, I watch NASCAR's website and the in-car and the follow stats. They got live stream on YouTube in-car as well. Yeah, I do like that they put the stats with it, Robin Marks. That actually makes the live stream a little bit better. But yeah, I just listen to MRN with it. You can also listen to the driver's in-car voice with it too if you go to the NASCAR. Well, you can't use it on your laptop anymore, so you would have to do it on your phone next year. Do it on your phone next year to get the driver in-car audio. Robin Marks, I watch NASCAR's website and the in-car and follow stats. They got the live stream YouTube car as well for sure. And of course, NASCAR changed that up. You got to watch it on your phone next year. You can't do it from your laptop. A lot of people not happy about that. Hopefully NASCAR's return to North Wilkesboro will make the All-Star race a lot better. I hope it makes it better too, but they're going to have to fix that short track package or North Wilkesboro is going to turn into a stinker too. And a lot of people are going to complain about the traffic, even though it's been well publicized that the traffic is going to suck. Mark my words, people will cry about the traffic. Old home guy, does NASCAR advertise on online racing? I don't know about that. I haven't seen them. Are you talking about the online like sim racing? They do advertise on the online sim racing, but they don't do it necessarily in commercial form. From what I've seen, they just do it like with wall banners and stuff like that. And then like the announcers will do you'll see maybe an overlay, but I don't think you get a full commercial on the live streams as far as that goes. Or on the online racing, sim racing, as far as that goes. But when they put them on TV, they definitely had commercials during the shutdown year or whatever. Here's a huge coincidence. The number 38 was driven by David Gilliland way back in 2007. Even when he joined Front Row Motorsports and now is being driven by his son. That is pretty cool. And that is also why they are a big fan of Gilliland. And I think Gilliland will stay there longer than Michael McDowell will. I think somebody is going to scoop up Michael McDowell because they realize how good of a driver he is pretty soon here. And hopefully the same thing happens with Corey LaJoie. Do you see NASCAR limiting teams to under 4 drivers like they did back in the 80s where teaming couldn't have been more than 4 and Roush had to cut from 4 to 5? Yeah, they already limit teams, R. Escobar. They already limit your charters to 4 charters. So once you have 4, you can't even do like how Trackhouse is doing the Project 91. Once you have 4 charters, you can't even do the Project 91. So they are limited to 4. So you are limited to not necessarily limited to 4 drivers, but you're limited to 4 car numbers that you can run. Old Home Guy says MRN, PRN, and watch the in-car views. Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool way to watch the race, in my opinion. Let's see here. Another huge coincidence is Ned Jarrett was on ESPN from the 80s to 2000, and his son Dale Jarrett joined ESPN from 2008 to 2014. For sure, Ned Jarrett was one of the best to ever do it. I cried like I hated on him during the '92 Daytona 500 when he called his son in. But looking back on it, it was really awesome. I was just butthurt because I was an Earnhardt fan and I saw Earnhardt lose yet another Daytona 500. But it was really cool for him to do that. So that was always a great moment, and for that moment to be that cool, and then of course his son joining ESPN from 2008 to 2014. That's a pretty cool legacy. And Dale Jarrett still works for NBC. So Dale Jarrett's still doing NBC broadcasts, and Ned Jarrett's still kicking butt, living his best life, probably golfing and doing whatever he wants to do now that he's retired. 90s, I meant not the 80s, says R. Escobar. It's all good, brother. I knew what you meant, though. Today's TV announcers can. What's up, Camaro 50 with the super chat? Appreciate you, buddy. Here's a link in for the Yugo build. Enjoy the rest of your day, BB. I appreciate it, Camaro 50. Thanks for the $5 holler. As always, you guys are way too nice to me, but we are going to get that Yugo build going here. I might do it before 10,000. I might at least buy the car to get some people at least excited about it before the 10,000. But we will get that going hopefully pretty soon here. Today's TV announcers can be annoying. I'm with you. The radio announcers are better, says Crazy Eights. Yeah, they just do such a better job on the radio. And I'm not trying to like just bash on TV and all that. They have producers and they have to do certain things, but I've always liked the MRN broadcast better. It's just really cool. I don't know, just how I feel about it. Not exactly. Molten Ray says, not exactly. That just means Michael Jordan or Denny Hamlin has to split from 23XI to own Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think Hamlin would do that. He would move from 23XI to Joe Gibbs Racing, and MJ owns 23XI. Yeah, but either way, like you would still have to have Joe in that particular situation. Nobody really bought Joe Gibbs Racing. Like Denny Hamlin's just moving over there to run it. And they're pretty much it really wouldn't change anything. It would pretty much be exactly how it's going today. They're pretty much just a 6-car team, and they've done it in an intelligent way because NASCAR can't do anything to them about it. So it is what it is. When I go to a track, I listen to MRN on the scanner. They are the best. Love Dave Moody's call, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, Dave Moody, he's got one of those voices. When Dave Moody talks, you immediately say, oh, that's Dave Moody. Steve Post as well. A lot of those guys have very recognizable voices. Barney Hall was who I grew up with. Barney Hall, back in the day, he could call a race like no other. Chris Economaki was another one. Ken Squire, of course, probably the best voice in all of in the history of announcing. He was more TV, but he did used to do some radio back in the day. Someone needs to get Corey LaJoy a good team, says Cassandra Keller. I agree with you 100%. Corey LaJoy is one of the more underrated talents in the NASCAR Cup Series right now. Escobar, I meant limiting teams to 3 cars instead of 4. I got you. I'm following you now, Escobar. I think that would be intelligent for NASCAR to do that, because if you do that, it would open up more charters for another manufacturer to get in. It would open up charters for other teams to get in. If you look at F1, they limit it to 2 cars. So they have done that, and it hasn't necessarily just because F1's so expensive, but I think if you did it with NASCAR, it would entice more people to come in there. Camaro 50 saying, peace out, everyone. Peace out, Camaro 50. I hope you have a good day the rest of your day. I hope all your teams win in football today or whatever sport you're watching. Old Home Guy says limit teams on charters is a joke. JGR basically has 6 teams. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. How many teams are affiliated with big teams? So that would probably be the counter argument to that. You could limit them to 3, but then they would just put a guy over here and say he's the owner and run a de facto 6-car team under the 3-car deal. But I do think if you limited them to 3 cars, that would actually help another manufacturer get in and help also newer teams get in, like say Dale Jr., who also had an interesting tweet. We can talk about that too. Dale Jr. Tweeted out that Josh Berry is a Cup Series champion, waiting for a team that wants to be a Cup Series champion. So a lot of people thought that was a pretty spicy tweet, and he got actually a lot of pushback from that from a lot of people saying, "Hey, why don't you just come up to Cup and be that Cup winning team owner?" So a lot of people said, "Hey, why don't you be Josh Berry's Cup team when he moves up the Cup?" So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Clint Boyer kind of underperformed in Stewart-Haas equipment, honestly, after looking at the stats. Clint Boyer was always a gamer, but he's in that Eric Amarola, Austin Dillon mold, where he would win a race here and there, but he was never going to consistently be a playoff driver or a playoff, Final 8 driver. Alice says, if NASCAR had only one TV broadcaster like F1 has ABC and ESPN and IndyCar has NBC, who would you have as NASCAR's sole broadcaster? That's a good question. I don't know. I would have to think about it. I'm kind of partial to Mike Joy. I like Mike Joy just because I'm familiar with him. He's been doing it for a long time. Now, who they actually put in that Fox booth with him, that would be contingent on it. But I know the vast majority of people like NBC. They love NBC's coverage. In my opinion, it's the Dale Jr. effect. But I like Mike Joy over Rick Allen. You can slide Dale Jr. in there, and then if Kevin Harvick retires, bring in Kevin Harvick. That would probably be my team that I'll go with there, because you got to have Dale Jr. because he drives the sport outside of being in a car more than anybody, and he drives the sport more than anybody probably anyway. So you got to have Dale Jr. in there. I like Mike Joy over Rick Allen, and I think Kevin Harvick does a really good job when he announces. So if Kevin Harvick retires, I would have Kevin Harvick in there. I think that would be the better booth. If Kevin Harvick doesn't retire, I would have Larry McReynolds in there as America's crew chief because I think he's just the man as far as that goes. But either way, you got to have Larry McReynolds involved as the crew chief factor because they like to have a crew chief in there as well. Mike Joy turned 73 this past weekend. Happy birthday to him, and happy birthday to Bobby Allison, who turned 85 yesterday. And it was also Ross Chastain's birthday not too long ago as well. So happy birthday to Ross Chastain. It was either yesterday or today or the day before. Yesterday. Cassandra Keller says, have a good day. Hope you have a good one there as well, Cassandra. Corey LaJoy should be in Stewart-Haas number 10. Should be 00. Wants that 10 to go to 00. Cassandra Keller says, hell yeah, I agree with Junior about the Josh Berry deal. Clint Boyer had a long-term poison ivy / poison oak disabled his time at Stewart-Haas Racing, plus his exposure to how NASCAR officials at Michael Waltrip Racing. So he was apparently, according to Old Home Guy, he was teched a little bit harder because of that Michael Waltrip deal. Shortened his career a little bit. Aldis Carroza, I shipped John Hunter for the 18 and retire the 19. John Hunter is probably a good candidate to be that next 18 driver. No doubt about it. Cassandra Keller wants to go Steve Letarte over Larry McReynolds. So that's fair. Steve Letarte does a great job too. That's a coin flip, really. I just like Larry McReynolds just because he's been around longer, to be totally honest with you. But Steve Letarte definitely does a great job. I got nothing against old Steve. R. Escobar, they need to bring guys like Ellie Gold, Dave Despain, Alan Bestwick back into the booth. A lot of people want Alan Bestwick back, 100%. Dave Despain was the man. I'd love to have Dave Despain back. Ellie Gold, I'd be good with her too. I'm not super familiar with her work, but I have seen one or two things that she's done. So I'll have to pay attention to her going forward. Another unpopular opinion, not the whole chat's going to kill me with, Matt DiBenedetto isn't really that good of a driver. He's kind of just mediocre talents that kind of gets overrated in my opinion. Will Moulton, I know Hacksaw. I don't know if Hacksaw's in this and watching. I know Hacksaw Jim Thuggin would agree with you. He was totally anti Matt DiBenedetto because I remember when Matt DiBenedetto lost that ride, he sent me a few messages on the message board under the videos. He was like good and stuff like that. So you're not alone, but it's definitely not as popular as it could be. I'll tell you what, we'll throw that up as a poll. Start a poll. Is Matty D overrated? How about that? There we go. We'll run that poll real quick here. Cassandra Keller says loves Larry Mack as well. I never knew Alan Bestwick called races in the 90s for MRN. Oh yeah, he's been around for a long time. Let's see. That is why he is back in trucks, Moulton. Says Mark Barnum. So there you go. Right now it's 50-50, which is not shocking. I feel like 50% of people like Matt DiBenedetto. I feel like at first, Eli Gold. I got you, Escobar. I was like, what? Ellie Gold is like a singer or something. I recognize the name, but I didn't put it with NASCAR. I appreciate it, Escobar. Eli Gold is who he's talking about. Eli, Eli, I think is how he spells his name. Yeah, Eli Gold was definitely the man back in the day. Would love to see him back. But yeah, Mark Barnum says that's why he is back in trucks, Moulton. Talking about Matt DiBenedetto, and once again, the poll's 50-50. If the 10 becomes a 00, Cole Custer is going to get it, and not anyone else, says Moulton Rage. So there you go. When they move Cole Custer back up, he might be the 00. Aldous Carosa says the problem with Larry Mack now is he's in his 60s now. Chad should serve in the color commentary TV booth. Says Aldous. Well, Chad Canals has his hands full over there doing what he's doing at Hendrick, so I don't think he could ever be a full-time guy doing the race coverage as well. I don't think he would have time to do both jobs, or at least not do both jobs well. You can do two jobs, but you can only do one job well, is something somebody told me, and they were pretty much right about that. He's a guy. He used to announce for TNN NASCAR races. Says R. Escobar. Not Cole Custer, LOL. Big surprise coming from you, Moulton, says Twain Mueller. Eli Gold was pretty good in the TNN booth. Eli is a good him, nor a her. Is a him, not a her. I got you. Yeah. Ellie Gold is like a singer, and I think she also ran marathons or something. Because back when I used to run, back before I got extra medium, back when I used to run, she was one of the people on the Nike running app that I used to mark my distance and stuff like that. So I recognized the name, and I associated it with racing because she ran in a marathon or something. So I'd heard the name, and I was like, but I'm not familiar with her calling a race. So that's why I was like, I'm not familiar with her calling a race. Yes, I know who Eli Gold is. Thank you. He calls the Alabama football games, or he used to at least. Old home guy, is Matty D even relevant to be rated or overrated? He's kind of stepped on his manhood the last year in Cup, says old home guy. So yeah, that was Matty D started off being really well liked. He was a really good underdog story. But then he got on social media and said some things that really irritated some people. So that sort of that took him from being like, he's sort of in the same position as Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar started out as an underdog. Everybody loved him, and then he opened his mouth. So Matty D was sort of in the same situation. Once Matty D got fired from the Wood Brothers, he had some harsh things to say about the Wood Brothers, and a lot of people didn't like that. So he sort of was like well liked, and then he opened his mouth and said some things, and that's when people sort of went the other way with the Matty D deal. So whereas I think a lot of people, it probably would have been 70 or 80% back in the day that he is a good up and coming talent. Once he started dissing people every time he lost a ride, that's when people sort of went south on him. And that being said, I'm not going to hate on him for saying that, because we all the time say, man, we wish drivers would just be themselves and be who they are. But then in this situation, people were like, oh, he should have kept his mouth shut. He shouldn't have said nothing. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want drivers to show personality, you can't bash them every time they say something you don't like. You can be like, oh, I don't agree with it, but you can't bash them for saying it, because that's going to discourage other drivers from like saying things in the future and being themselves. So if you want drivers to be themselves, every time they say something you disagree with, don't necessarily bash them, just disagree with them respectfully. That would be my comment, so that we get more personalities to come out in the future. Crew chief is CC. It's also color commentary for a TV booth. If you're talking about a TV booth and you put CC, it's usually color commentary. But all right, crew chief, gotcha, Aldous. Thank you, BB. Have a great day, says Escobar. You have a good one too. Mike George says hello, Berliner and everyone else. What's up, Mike George? Good to have you on here, brother. Anyone else who talks bad about the Wood brothers needs a spanking, literally, says Cassandra Keller. Exactly. I think that's where he lost a lot of people. You can vote on the poll right now if you'd like to. But I think that's where he lost a lot of people as far as if Matty D's overrated. That's what we're talking about here. Anyone who talks bad about the Wood brothers needs a spanking. I agree with that 100%. And that's where he lost a lot of people. He didn't lose a ton of people when he talked bad about, losing his ride from, what was it? Procore was the sponsor. Levine Family Racing. He didn't necessarily lose a lot of fans when he left there in sort of a blaze of glory. But when he dissed the Wood brothers, that's when everybody was sort of like, we're not having that. So the Wood brothers, much like Richard Petty, that they're sacred cows that you don't step on because they've earned it, because they're super nice and they've pretty much historically been good to everybody. So talking bad about them usually says more about you than them. And I think that's how a lot of people took it in that situation. People like Carson Hocevar till he started right hooking other trucks. That's Mark Barnum. That's fair. That's fair too. But then he tried to defend it. And when he tried to defend it, instead of just saying, yeah, I hooked him, that's when he lost people. The biggest problem I have with that comparison to the one of Carson, at least, is he's not in great equipment. He's in mediocre equipment, while Matt was in good equipment with the Wood brothers and underperformed. Was he in good equipment, though? Who has done anything with the Wood brothers other than Ryan Blaney? Name that driver who had a good season with the Wood brothers, not named Ryan Blaney. I'll wait. So I don't know. I just feel like the Wood brothers have a good car when Roger Penske has a driver down there that he wants to develop. Matt DiBenedetto was not a driver that Roger Penske wanted to develop. So he sort of he didn't get the equipment, in my opinion, that Ryan Blaney got. And he was compared to Ryan Blaney. That's the other issue. You're comparing Matt DiBenedetto to Ryan Blaney, who was previous. Now they had Paul Menard in between them. Don't get me wrong, but he was being compared to Ryan Blaney. So there were two things working against him. He didn't have the equipment Ryan Blaney had, and Ryan Blaney is a better driver, in my opinion. So at least at this stage in their careers. So he had two things working against him, and then when it went south, he started saying that the team was against him, and it just turned a lot of people off. So that's where it sort of ended up. I'm going to go for about maybe 10 or 15 more minutes now. So get your questions in, because then I'm gonna hop off and watch some football. The Wood brothers are legends of NASCAR, says Mike George. Yeah, no doubt about it. Matt DiBenedetto talking bad about the Wood brothers, even though the trend is they never give their drivers more than 1 year. He was lucky. He had a second year, was disgraceful and disrespectful. I agree with you. And I think that's how a lot of people felt. So he earned the bid he now sleeps in, and I think he learned from it and he grew from it. And hopefully the next time he leaves the team, he won't go out sour grapes like he did with the Wood brothers. I'm not going to sit here and bash him for something that happened in the past, as long as he learns from it and works to be better in the future. I'm not going to sit there and hold stuff like that against somebody. NASCAR wouldn't be the same without them, says Mike George. Yeah, the Wood brothers, could you imagine not seeing that 21 out there in any of its various forms? But especially that red and gold. Now, I know back in the 90s, they ran the 21 Sitco, and it was white and red. They didn't have the gold on it necessarily. But that gold 21 is famous. Just it's hard to imagine the sport without it, or at least without a 21 period. And I know, I think didn't Elliott Sadler run it? It was sort of like an orange Sitco car. So they've had various other paint schemes, but that red 21 with the gold, or that red and white car with the gold 21 is just iconic. Saying Wood Brothers cars are a fourth Penske car is like saying Salisbury steak is the same thing as filet mignon. I've never understood it. The 21 car is nowhere near the Penske ride. Say Kyle, not Cal. 100% agree with you, man. Like, and the 1 year that it was the year that Ryan Blaney was in that car, or the couple years that Ryan Blaney was in that car. And that's why I think it's an unfair comparison. It's like comparing Ryan Preece's finishes in the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing to everybody else who's been in the 15 car, when the 15 car, when Ryan Preece is driving it, was prepared by Stuart Haas, whereas the 15 car, when everybody else is driving it, is prepared by Rick Ware Racing. it's just night and day difference. And it's really no comparison. And I 100% agree with you. So it wasn't fair to compare Matt DiBenedetto. I knew that was going to happen. I hate that guy's last name. I like Matt DiBenedetto, but I hate his last name. So we're just going to go Dibby from here on out. And it really irritates me when I get his name wrong. So anyway, as you just saw, but I feel like he is considered overrated now because of how he treated the Wood brothers. I don't think it really has anything to do with his driving. And just like I don't feel like it had anything to do with his driving beforehand because he was just a really good underdog story. That's why people sort of said, oh, he's an up and coming talent when he was an underdog story. And then they jumped off of it real quick when he dissed the Wood brothers and said, oh, he's overrated. He's not that good anyway. So I think that has more to do with it than anything, but he definitely was not in the same equipment, in my opinion, that Ryan Blaney had at the Wood brothers. Old Home Guy says Jerry Punch, Andy Petrie, Ralph Shaheen, and rotate former drivers and not owners in the booth. That would be pretty cool. I would like to see some owners in there talking. Andy Petrie was really good. He used to do the Truck Series stuff back in the day. Jerry Punch is an absolute legend. And Ralph Shaheen, super underrated. Aldis Carosa, I still want Lee Diffie, Kurt Busch, and Jamie McMurray in the Fox booth. Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, and Matt Kenseth in the CBS booth, and Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, and Carl Edwards in the ABC booth. So that's a lot of people there. Let's see, Lee Diffie, Kurt Busch, and Jamie McMurray at Fox. Okay. So I could see Jamie McMurray. I could see Kurt Busch. I would still keep Mike Joy over Lee Diffie, but that's just me. Let's see, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, and Matt Kenseth in the CBS booth. You would need a color guy there. So you would have to take one of those drivers out to get an actual, like a Mike Joy type guy in there. So in that particular situation, or you could just have a 4-man booth, just slide Lee Diffie into that situation. Then the CBS booth would be Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, Carl Edwards, and you would still have to have a color guy there. So Rick Allen. So slide Rick Allen in over there. So Bubba Wallace used to be loved, underdog, but when he thinks he was pushed, he becomes a prick to everyone who did something on accident, says Aldis Carosa. So if you look at his history all the way through late models, you can even look up the late model race where he punched a guy. I think it was at Hickory. He's always been a hothead. So when things don't go his way, he does lash out. So he's actually always been like that his whole career. For whatever reason, people ignored it when he was at Petty, I guess because he was driving for Richard Petty. But I always knew he had a short temper. You could listen to him on the radio until he had a short temper. So I can't say that. I guess people just didn't know that about him. But that's not necessarily why people don't like him now. There's various other reasons why people don't like him now. One is the temper. One is he is an outspoken political activist, which he said in his own words that he is a political activist. So I'm not putting words into his mouth there. And a lot of people disagree with his politics because a lot of people don't want politics in sports. And we'll leave it at that. So that is mainly why he is disliked in some of his takes on Twitter. So that is actually why he's more disliked, I would say more so probably than his temper, because we've seen a lot of drivers with hot heads that don't necessarily get the hate that he gets. I hope they put Dave Moody in the booth for a race when MRN is off 1 week. Mike Bagley did an awesome job at Watkins Glen. Would love to see how Moody does. I would too. I think they could definitely work that out and make that happen. I think they did that 1 year too, if I'm not mistaken. I might be remembering wrong, but I feel like MRN did a race 1 year, and Dave Moody was one of the corner callers, if I'm not mistaken. Philip says the commentators should be NASCAR's pick. This way, the booth will be the same every week, no matter where it's being broadcast. That would be actually really good if you had just had one broadcast team, which I think Aldis mentioned earlier, one broadcast team for the whole deal. I think that would help out quite a bit. Mike George says, I miss Dr. Jerry Punch on pit road for sure. Dr. Jerry Punch, he's a legend, man. I forgot he saved some race car driver. I think it was Ernie Irvan. When Ernie Irvan got in that really bad wreck where he lost his eye, they had to pop his trachea open so he could breathe. I think Dr. Jerry Punch did that with a Swiss Army knife, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Barnum says, Andy Petrie blocked me on Twitter because I flamed him years ago, LOL. There you go. A lot of people get blocked on Twitter for random reasons. So far, nobody's blocked me, so I'm surprised by that. But also, I feel good about it. So hopefully, they either don't know about me or on Twitter, or they don't care what I say. Either way, it's good. Maybe former drivers, Junior, Burton, etc., should qualify in car before each race to bet in the booth each drivers. Maybe former drivers, Junior, Burton, etc., should qualify in a car before each race to bet in the booth on each driver's. I don't know. I kind of get what you're saying, but I'm not catching the last part of it. Oh, to get in the booth. Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. I got you. So they would have like a little. Let's. I'll forget about qualifying. We'll just have a little heat race. You have a heat race to see who's going to be the commentator that week. That would add an extra layer. Appreciate it, old home guy. He did correct it down here. Get in the booth. Aldous Carosa says Harvick will be the lead in the CBS booth, and Dale Jr. Will be the lead in the ABC booth. I don't think Dale Jr. can handle the lead. And I don't think Harvick would be able to handle the lead. I think you need somebody that's actually trained in media to do that. That's just my personal opinion. Rick Allen, for as much hate as he gets, he is the lead guy, and he does that pretty well. And Mike Joy, of course, absolute legend, been doing it forever. Put Brad Daugherty in the booth. Oh, man, Brad Daugherty is the man. He is freaking fantastic as a commentator, extremely underrated. Says Molten Rage, 100% agree. And Brad Daugherty was sort of like a double threat. You could use Brad Daugherty for college basketball. You could use, or triple threat, Brad Daugherty for the NBA, and you could use him for NASCAR. I think he would be a great addition to anybody's broadcast booth because he would be very, very versatile. Mike George says it was Rusty Wallace. Mike George, Jerry Punt saved Rusty Wallace at Bristol. That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember who it was. So it was Rusty Wallace had to trach him. Midnight Black Car. Did you see Rusty Wallace's Midnight Black Car? I did see the Midnight Black Car. Did they just restore it? I know the car you're talking about. They must have just restored it. So I hadn't seen that one. So I have to look that up when I get off here. I have not seen the Midnight Black Car. Move Victory interview back to Victory Lane. I agree with that 100%, old home guy. Like if they had just been adults and had the Victory interview in Victory Lane, we never would have had the Brandon Brown controversy, unfortunately. All right, one wise guy saying have a good one. Hope you have a good one too. One wise guy, Dr. Jerry Punch actually saved Rusty Wallace at Bristol, says Aldous. Cassandra, yes, it was one of the best looking cars, says Mike George. So I have to look that one up. Aldous says Iceberg blocked me last July on Twitter for no reason. That's why I don't comment on his channel. Maybe no reason to you. I'm sure he had his reason for doing it. It is what it is. I'm sure I'm blocked by somebody. I just don't know it, probably because I'm blocked. Brad Daugherty would also be pretty damn good as a NASCAR team owner in the Cup Series. So he should bring that insight into Cup cars in the booth because he owns one in the series. For sure. Brad Daugherty, he would bring so much more perspective because he is a team owner. I feel you on that one. And like I said, you're stupid not to have him because he has so many other versatile things you could do. Like just about every network has a college basketball game. And if he was with whoever is carrying the NBA, is it ABC? If he was with ABC, he could call the NBA games as well. So if ABC got it, I feel like he would be a natural fit for them. Aldous Harvick did lead commentary in Xfinity, and Dale Jr. did lead commentary for a few Cup races, by the way, since 2018. Yeah, but that's usually when they do the full, just do the full driver lineup. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I don't think either one of them are better than Rick Allen or Mike Joy as far as leading the deal. But that's cool. You can have that opinion, and I can have mine. It's not the end of the world. Stapleton 42 has Rusty Midnight Black Car recently. Old home guy says, all right, so I'll check that one out. I hadn't checked out old Stapleton in a while, so I need to watch some of his stuff again. Mark Barnum says, Iceberg shaved, and he looks like he's 15 years old. Yeah, I did see him on his live stream the other night. He looked different with the shave, but I definitely wasn't going to say anything because I caught a lot of flack when I cut my beard off too. So I didn't want to add to that because I know how bombarding it can be when people don't like your look. The concussion thing would make it hard to be fast on being on top of everything for TV. I know from experience with concussions, says Cassandra Keller. For Junior, yeah, I knew you were talking about. For sure. You can get foggy minded sometimes, no doubt about it. Say Kyle, not car. Say Kyle, not cow. LOL, Mark. So true. Talking to Mark up there. Brad Doherty, I already shown he's a really good broadcaster in NASCAR because he done some broadcasting in the Xfinity Series, and he's really damn good. He made the Texas race booth pretty enjoyable. Yeah, he did some cup stuff back in the day as well. He's really good. There's no doubt that Brad Doherty is one of the best commentators out there. He just he doesn't have a gig right now. He's with he was with ESPN right when he was doing correct me if I'm wrong, but he was doing ESPN up until the year that they got rid of NASCAR, if I'm not mistaken. Imagine how much better behaved Bubba would be if he drove for Brad Doherty. Yeah, that's a fair statement. I feel like 23XI lets their guys be who they want to be, and other teams don't put up with we'll just say shenanigans like getting out of the car and spraying water on people. But petty GMS is pretty. They let you be who you want to be, and 23XI and Joe Gibbs Racing pretty much let you be who you want to be. So, but Brad Doherty, he's run a pretty tight ship. I can't say the guy's Gestchicker. I can't say the guy's last name, but anyway, they seem to run a tighter ship over there. You don't see as much personality from their drivers. And with that, I'm going to end this one. I appreciate all you guys hanging out. It was fun as always, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.